and significant as an Oscar. And with that in mind, we reached out to a local artist to create an award that captures the hope and power of a patient and a parent speaking out to save her child. And with this, the Abby emerged. So there you have it, the Abby. I want to remind you, as noted earlier, it is 11 pounds, so no hanging over your head in triumph. Keep it to the side. So now, what you've all been waiting for, which of our amazing nominees will receive an Abby? And our community has many incredible advocates, but this ceremony recognizes individuals who go above and beyond to become policy leaders and political advocates. This year's honorees, nominated by the community, are an elite group. These nominees have been described as inspiring, legends, heroes, game changers, courageous, and passionate. While everyone nominated was certainly worthy of winning the award, the judges made their decision based on the nominees' leadership, risk-taking, cooperation, and overall success and effectiveness. Let's start tonight by recognizing congressional staff. They're among the best advocates for rare disease patients. While staff usually work tirelessly behind the scenes, often with little credit, this award ceremony pays tribute to their vital role in the legislative process. We know that many of you have worked to help patients, but there are a few that really have gone above and beyond their responsibilities to be patient advocates. Let's meet this year's amazing congressional staff nominees.
I started working on rare disease issues back in 2012 when I was in Congressman John Carter's office. I'm not here because I have a dream of working in a DC lobbying firm. I try to find every opportunity I can to help advocate for patients with rare diseases. I really am here to work with people and to try to listen to them so that we can get results that actually matter. People who I've worked with on these issues stick in my mind every single day. Every single day I think about them. And those are the people who are driving me, and I know them because they've come up here and they've talked to me and they've told me their story.
I think it's the patient stories that matter. That is what resonates with staffers and members of Congress. And the patient advocates are so crucial to the success that the Lymphedema Treatment Act has had so far in Congress. And it's really because they've been able to share their personal story. People know who we are, they know what lymphedema is. We're able to meet with representatives in leadership, highest levels of the administration, And I think that we're going in the right direction, and the goal is now to close the Medicare gap and we get coverage for compression items this year for lymphedema patients.
The senator in February introduced the Sickle Cell Disease Research, Prevention, and Treatment Act with Senator Tim Scott. And so I was very fortunate to help him through that. I look at healthcare through the lens of health disparities. I think often we think about that and maybe should think about through the lens of racial disparities and income disparities and gender disparities. But I think rare disease, that is a population that faces some serious disparities in their own right. And a lot of that starts from very basic research at the NIH and fighting to get some of those research monies that could really go a long way. For me, I think that fighting for rare disease patients is really quite in line with just sort of why I'm here on the Hill and what I'm hoping to do here on the Hill.
Well, I've been working specifically with the pulmonary fibrosis community probably for almost 4 years now. So since I came to the office, I will be honest, I did not know what pulmonary fibrosis was before I came to this office. But since then, I've met incredible champions and advocates in meeting with different people who are affected by the disease, who have a story to tell. That's how we are able to actually do our work and get results for our constituents. Getting the funding increases for this community has been incredibly rewarding and impactful, but also I hope that what it ultimately leads to is finding a cure. Keeping the rare disease community engaged is so important to be able to keep those numbers going up. I'm hopeful that we are headed toward a cure for this disease.
I've come to have a great many dear friends and people I've become close to who have been affected through my job, and it's the time where my personal life is kind of blended with my work life. I got immediately really hooked into this issue, knowing that we were helping these families, helping the patient advocacy group, pieces of legislation that would actually move the needle, do good, and actually get signed into law. Past 2 years, we've introduced and signed into law 2 pieces of legislation that never hadn't really been done before. Both the Race for Children Act, pharmaceutical companies having to sort of test their adult cancer products in children when it's safe, and then also the Childhood Cancer STAR Act, sort of prioritizing childhood cancer within the NIH. Hearing directly from testimonials and stories from patients and their families is really powerful, and it really makes a difference up here in Capitol Hill.
And the Congressional Staff Abbey goes to Thomas Rice for his tireless advocacy for the rare disease community.
Thank you so much. As a Hill staffer, I'm not used to standing above on the podium. I'm usually behind the scenes, so this is a little new to me. But thank you so much for the Rare Voice Committee for nominating and giving me this award. First, I want to say it's an honor to work on these issues for Congressman Michael McCall, such a champion for this issue. He's given me the opportunity to work on this and work with the community. It's a privilege really to work with so many of the people here and throughout the rare disease community. It's you all out there who make this special, who are the advocates and make it worth it. What I do as a staffer is speak on behalf on your stories, fighting through the red tape of the political jargon. I mean, what I do is just try to make sense of really tough issues that don't get a lot of attention, issues where we have to be the voice, where you guys come to us and we try to take action on it. I was reminded recently that through a childhood cancer advocate who came to our office recently, why I do this, where, she was only still in high school. She had been through 2 devastating cancer diagnoses 5 years apart, and yet she was so positive. Throughout all the chemotherapy, throughout all the surgeries, she was so positive about life, so positive about just being in high school and being a kid and being in Washington. and really just kind of reminded me and grounded me about why I do this and why this is also important. So thank you again so much.
Holding that is a workout. I'm going to have to do that. So legislation for rare disease patients usually starts with a story about access to a diagnosis or treatment. And prior to my time at FDA, I worked for nearly a decade at Discovery Channel and learned the powerful aspect of storytelling. And even at FDA, I was touched by many of your stories, and many still stick with me today. The passion patients, parents, caregivers have can help create and drive legislation to increase funding and reform the drug development process. Let's take a minute to meet these champions, the patient advocate nominees for federal level advocacy.
At age 13, I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and since then I've been diagnosed with about 12 different conditions. Before I even thought about getting into politics of my own, I reached out to my representatives and their legislative assistants and talked about things like the OPEN Act, talked about things like pre-existing conditions and how it's not fair to those of us who can't control those things. If I could stand up, if I could stand on the Miss America stage and say, I have an invisible illness, I have a rare disease, then people are forced to listen. I want people to be able to get access to treatments, have access. So there's a difference between having coverage and then actually being able to use that coverage. It's like me giving you a cookie and saying, oh, but you can't eat it. You have a right to live in this world. You have a right to being happy and to following your dreams. You should also have a right to being healthy and be able to try to get the fair access to treatments that are going to help you live a fruitful life.
What gets me out of bed in the morning is when certain people threaten what we need most, like Medicaid and Medicare, and try to discriminate against those pre-existing conditions. Jerseys don't discriminate. Small victories are victories, and you need to be persistent in getting them. Even in the darkest of times, there isn't always will be hope. Because when you're a patient battling diseases and conditions that you don't have anything, you can't just sit on the sides of it, oh wow, and just think, whatever, this is it. We need help from everyone. It takes a village to move anything, move buttons.
Children need a voice. The St. Baldrick's Foundation works on advocacy specifically around research and how can we advance research for pediatric cancer. Children can't vote, but we can.
Every year, Childhood Cancer Committee comes together on Capitol Hill during Action Days to share your stories and to tell Congress why this matters. Now is the time to do more, not less. And it can seem really frustrating and incremental in terms of the change. But if you're not at the table, you're on the table. And that's why we're here, and we're going to make a difference.
The happiest day of my life was having the doctor put him in my arms. ALD is a demyelinating disease. There was an ALD newborn screening test, but not one state was using it.
Had there been a newborn screening for adrenoleukodystrophy, he'd be alive. A bunch of other kids would probably be alive.
This is so important to me, and the reason why I continue to do what I do. I know that these lives will be very different, and their lives will be saved because of newborn screening.
And the Abbey for Patient Advocacy at the federal level goes to Danielle Leach.
Well, on behalf of, I'm honored to be nominated with so many amazing advocates. Sorry, I have to wear my glasses. Thank you to the Rare Disease Legislative Advocates for this award, and it's a tremendous honor, and I appreciate the recognition of the work of all we have accomplished. This award is not my own. I accept it on behalf of all the childhood cancer advocates who put their heart, their soul, and voice into creating change for kids with cancer. We accomplished this together. I would like to thank everyone with whom I've worked closely to achieve our common goals. Our champions on the Hill, our partners at NCI and FDA, the Alliance for Childhood Cancer, the Coalition Against Childhood Cancer, and the thousands of advocates who take action every single day. I'm grateful to the amazing team at St. Baldrick's who lets me have a job that puts my grief into action. And a special thank you to my family because they put up with a whole heck of a lot while I'm doing my work. Every day I carry the families, children, and advocates and researchers I've met in my heart. Our work is for the parent sitting in the hospital room searching for another treatment. The child who wants to get out of the hospital and just be a regular kid. And for the survivor who is dealing with long-term side effects of his or her treatment. And for the researchers and clinicians working so hard to help our kids survive and thrive. My work is for my son Mason, who did not have the chance to grow up because childhood cancer killed him at age 5. My work is for my sister, who survived from research. We can all be proud of the recent passage of the Childhood Cancer STAR Act, the most comprehensive childhood cancer bill ever introduced into Congress and passed into law. The incredible work of the childhood cancer community to make this happen was not easy and required coordination and significant collaboration. We show working together makes things happen. My son Mason should have been 16 this weekend. It's okay to be sad and to be angry and frustrated about the lack of funding and progress in childhood cancer and in many rare diseases. The question is, what do you do next? We are ready to keep pushing for change together. In honor of Mason and so many others, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that story. You know, some young adults in our community don't shy away from challenges, but they embrace them. They have resilient attitudes that enable them to think of creative solutions to overcome obstacles. They work tirelessly to turn hope into action. Let's take a look at the young adults who are leaving their mark on the federal and state levels. And maybe we can even convince them to go into politics.
I've always been involved with the rare disease community. My sister, who is a year older than me, has cystic fibrosis, and so from a very young age, I was going to events, I was fundraising, I was going to speaking engagements, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with advocacy, I fell in love with the advocacy community, and I realized that that's where I could make the most impact. It's really kind of become my passion to empower teens and young adults to refine their stories, to become experts on the policy, and to share with members of Congress, because the legislative impact that they can have is truly remarkable.
I definitely realized there was work to be done when it was super difficult for me to get diagnosed. A lot of the doctors I already had no idea what any of these names were. And that's when I said, okay, there's work to be done here. There's awareness to spread. And that's sort of where I started getting involved in Dysautonomia International with their annual lobbying day, or Congressional Advocacy Day as we like to call it. I mean, just being able to make a difference, whether that difference is just on a huge impact on one individual or a smaller impact on many individuals across the board, has ripple effects that are so much larger than we're able to measure, and I think that's incredible. One person is all it takes to start a movement.
I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia on February 25th, 2015, when I was 7 and in the 2nd grade. I would think about all the other kids, younger than me and older than me, who had to go through the same things that I did.
And when I think about what this means, I think of my friend Sadie Keller. She is perhaps the strongest person I know.
President Trump recently signed the STAR Act to expand opportunities for childhood cancer research. Childhood Cancer Caucus Chairman Mike McCall is leading the effort with a unique, unofficial co-sponsor, 11-year-old cancer survivor Sadie Keller.
Sunlight coming through. That is what this bill represents, is sunlight for the children who have been afflicted with this terrible disease.
That's one of the advocates told me at the signing ceremony. It's almost like a fairy tale, and Sadie's the princess of that fairy tale.
I was diagnosed at age 4 because of my cafe au lait spots and leash nodules, but I had no symptoms. During a routine MRI at age 11, a brain tumor was discovered. I had surgery the week before I turned 12. Everything went fine, and you could never tell I had surgery. I sent care packages to other kids with NF who are in need of a little morale booster. Now, after 70-some packages, and more than a year later, I've reached children from all over the world.
Ever since I've been young, I've been trying to advocate for NF, raise awareness, and raise money through research so there can eventually be a cure. Like getting to see the actual offices where the senators work and sometimes they let us sit at their desk and take pictures, and that's cool. And seeing the actual buildings and the passing the rooms that say like committee or foreign affairs committee, then it's like makes it so much more real that it actually happens there. My name is Alana, and I'm the face and the heart of NF.
Oh my gosh, that must be me. There are patients needing treatment, but Medicare won't pay the fee. In the end, Congress must pass the LTA. The bill is smart for patients and good financial sense. It won't be long now, I guarantee. Year number 3, they will pass the bill. I know that they will. Please go to lymphedema-treatment-act.org and
Those are compelling stories. There's a reason why I have a stool here right next to me, because the winner of the Abbey for Young Adult Advocacy goes to Sadie Keller.
I am so overwhelmed right now. This is just so amazing. And first off, I want to thank Nancy Goodman and Kids Beat Cancer for helping me lobby and being there while I lobby. I could never have done this without them. And also I would really like to thank my friend Michael McCall, who has done so many things for me and for being my partner. I feel like we make a really good team. And this award just means so much to me. And I just remember being in the hospital and not feeling well at all. And I would always walk the halls and I would see kids just like me. And I remembered how hard I was fighting and how much pain I was in. And then that's how I thought, well, they're going through the same thing. So that's when I really thought, no kids have to go through this, and that I need to make a difference and we need to make a difference. So that is kind of when I just was like, I need to do something. And it really hit me whenever I found out how much funding in research childhood cancer gets. Only 4% out of billions of dollars that goes to cancer research, only 4% goes to childhood cancer research. So I was like, I need to help this, because I was willing to do anything. So now whenever I go into a congressman's office, I just think I really am making a difference, and I am the voice for childhood cancer, and that is what I want to do. I want to help others. Because there's such bad treatments with no cures at all, and kids are dying every day. So I was like, this is not happening, and I need to help get these acts passed so that I can help more kids. And it doesn't matter what age you are or what you believe in. It matters that we all just come together and we make a difference. And together we can make a difference. And thank you all so much.
What's wrong with your whistle, Dad?
It's got tears in it.
Thank you, Sadie. So before we continue with the rest of the show, I wanted to take a moment to highlight what the proceeds from tonight's award ceremony fund. Congressional caucus briefings, in-district lobby days, and Rare Disease Week on Capitol Hill. I could say more, but I'll let you hear directly from the patient advocates.
The only way that scientists or policymakers are going to know that more treatments are necessary is for patients to articulate that need. One of the things that we've been doing, and I know Every Life has been doing as well, is to create tools to allow people who are interested in understanding what this world looks like to learn about those things. I find when they understand, they're much more effective advocates, much more effective team members in helping us develop these therapies with them.
Well over half the people each year are new. They've never been to DC, and to see them feel the energy in the room and learn how this policy is made and what are the challenges and the difficulties and the opportunities, it's just very, very exciting.
Parents and patients with rare diseases, any diseases, are the most educated, the most knowledgeable about the problems that people living with these diseases have. It's always important for citizens to speak out on issues that are important to them.
The enthusiasm is it's contagious, it's wonderful.
You don't need to have legislative experience, you don't need to have lobbying experience. You just need to have a story that you're willing to share with other people. And it's just really empowering to be here with so many rare disease advocates.
We can make a difference by talking to Congress and getting laws that we need passed.
Every time you have an opportunity to advocate, whether it be locally or here in Washington, D.C., you really have an impact on the future of rare disease treatment and rare diseases in general.
We find that there's common ground across the rare diseases. We all have the same challenges. The science and chemistry may be different, but the issues in care and treatments and reimbursement and research, those are all the same across organizations. We get to know a lot of other people that we can rely on, and they can rely on us.
It will bring hope, it will bring comradeship, and it will give some tangible outcomes that they can use when they go home.
Learn from this experience and empower yourselves to become better advocates for yourselves or your children.
And we hope to see you at Rare Disease Day at NIH.
So mark those days down on your calendar. While most of tonight's focus has been on our successes at the federal level, and you may think, did I really just say success and federal in the same sentence? That can seem quite an